Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sessions Cafe. I'm your host, Keri D. Singleton, and today we welcome Koren A. Small to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for visiting the show, and thank you for blessing us with your essence.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, man. We have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Because you have a lot going on, and I'm really, really excited to share your story and all the wonderful things that you do with our audience. But first, I have a quote that I want to read to you, and then I want to know how this particular quote resonates to you, Koren, okay? And you'll be familiar with it.
Okay.
Sometimes things fall apart so that better things can fall together. And that's a quote by Marilyn Monroe, which I believe you are familiar with.
Yes, that is on my website. That quote, just when things fall apart, just know that when you're gluing the pieces of yourself back together, it's all going to fit back, not perfectly, but in the way that it's supposed to, because now this is your new beginning. So you're shedding that old skin and you're restarting anew now. Yeah.
And I trust that it's not just a quote that you like by the late, great Marilyn Monroe. It's probably one that you live by.
It is definitely that, along with some other quotes that have gotten me through a lot of life journeys.
Share one or two of them with me.
Oh, one of them, passing of my mom and dad. That alone, it's like your DNA gets rewired once your parents are gone.
Wow.
So that, along with some other affirmations, my village support has really glued me back to a new beginning of what you see now.
Okay. Well, we got a lot to talk about. That's these cards. Hope you're not. A lot of times, my guests, I wonder if they're actually reading them. But we got a lot to talk about, Koren. First of all, you're an advanced life care specialist. Give me a synopsis of what that means.
So first, I will, and if you don't mind, I'll start with SOAR. So SOAR for me has been something that I've had forever, and it just means supporting others with advocacy and respect.
Okay.
With the advanced life planning, it's making sure that during your respectful times, during anything, whether you're going, best way to put it, if you are going on a trip, you don't know what's going to happen during that trip.
It's true.
So you have your advanced life planning available, and it's there for you. So that is your bank information, your passwords to your computers, your bank account, anything of that sort. God forbid if you are unconscious, what do you want them to do? Do you want to be kept on life support? Do you want them to say, you know what, she's lived a great life, I'm ready to go, I am at peace with it. So this is a way for you to talk when you cannot talk.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Now, my god sister, Naiko, she was actually a guest on the show a couple of seasons back. She's a doula, right?
Wow.
But she's a birthing doula. And through her, because she experienced an infant loss herself, which obviously was traumatizing for her.
It is.
And it pushed her into becoming a doula, becoming a life coach. But you're an end-of-life and grief doula, which I thought was extraordinarily interesting and fascinating.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's really, really dive deep into that, because that's so different than, I'm familiar with doulas who help women give birth. And you're a doula that's there for the other end of the life experience and journey. So let's dive into that if we could.
One thing for sure, we know that we are all going to die.
Yeah.
We just don't know when.
Right.
My role as an end-of-life doula is to make sure that is done with dignity, with respect, making sure that your voice is heard.
Okay.
What usually happens when a person starts transitioning or they get that diagnosis that nothing else can happen, it's the family that folks worry about. And the person who's transitioning wants, it's an easier way because I'm not only educating the person who's dying on just what the stages are, but I'm also educating and supporting the families as well. So it's whether it's doing a legacy project or Virgil sitting, I am there to make sure that the person who is transitioning can actually go in peace, and that the family gets the support that they need during, beginning, during, and after.
The process.
Yes.
Right. You know, I've often, every single human on this planet knows that they're on the clock, as sometimes I tend to say. But when you're in that moment, when you have a diagnosis, when you know that you got 2 weeks, 3 months, or whatever it is, for those that are quote unquote lucky enough, I guess, to even have that experience with transitioning, I feel like, obviously I've never been there, right? You've never been there. What is that like for a person to go through? Like, to actually know that you're not going to be here in a month?
It's scary when you don't know, but when you prepare yourself, because most people, when they're on their deathbed, it's the shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Yeah.
You know, I should have been there more for my family. I wish I would have took that trip.
Right.
I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard.
Right.
And those are the things that are going through their head as they're transitioning. But it's a scary feeling for everybody involved, because they don't want to leave their family. Nobody wants to leave their family.
Right.
Even as an end-of-life doula, my biggest fear is leaving my grandkids behind. Not even my kids, just my grandkids.
Right.
But when you know how long you may have, that's where you do your legacy planning and your legacy review. So that way, even though you're no longer here, for your kids, your grandkids, you write your letters, you put together that recipe book, you share stories, so that way your memories still live on, even though you're no longer here.
I would like to share something with you. This is not in my cards. A couple of years ago, I lost 2 of my closest friends to cancer within 3 days.
Wow.
Shireen Lewis was fighting her battle in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Whereas my buddy in Brooklyn, Parrish Williams, was fighting his battle here in New York City, literally at the same time. And I was actually going back and forth to be with them. It was quite exhausting. But what I experienced with Parrish, if I remember correctly, was he was in denial, I want to say. In fact, I didn't even know how sick he was.
Wow.
Whereas with my friend Shireen in Philadelphia, she told me, look, I'm going in hospice. You know, she was giving me the steps. I kind of really didn't even know whether my friend from New York was going to make it or not. I knew with my friend in Philadelphia, right? So I had 2 different experiences being by their side. And Parrish actually left first. I believe on a Tuesday, his mother called me and said he didn't make it.
Wow.
Shireen, I got the phone call from her mother 2 days later. Neither one of them were 50 years old.
Wow.
So I often thought, how did they, within themselves, prepare themselves? I don't know if you can answer this, for death. Like, that's not something that most of us have to think about. We go along with our daily routines every day thinking that we'll be here tomorrow, the next day, a week from now. We don't think about that. But when you're sitting in that hospital bed and you know that you're not going anywhere physically, that's what I guess I'm trying to, how did they, I know you didn't know them, but how does a person?
So I can say my dad passed away from cancer about 8.5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's very horrible.
Yeah.
I can say he was worried about me. Because it all goes back to not wanting to leave your loved ones behind.
Right.
And the fight was a fight, definitely.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting in my car and something just said, tell him it's okay.
Okay.
And I remember sitting in the car, I'm driving to work, and I'm boohoo crying, and I'm like, Daddy, I will be okay.
Okay.
If you want to go, I will be okay, I promise you. Because I was Daddy's girl.
Right.
But it took a while before we got to that process for him to be like, I have cancer. What I can assume with your friends is that the young lady was like, I've come to terms. I've lived an amazing life. I know I still have more to go, but I am at peace. I am at will.
She seems to be, I don't mean to interrupt you, she seemed to be, Paris didn't have any kids. Shireen had kids and grandkids. So she seemed to be really, really focused on us being okay.
Yeah.
You know, not wanting to leave us as a collective, but that seemed to be her focus. Paris was kind of, I remember him being, oh well, I'll be all right. I lived a decent amount of years, which she didn't, but it was kind of, his was a little bit dismissive.
Yeah,
almost.
it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
For him, it was probably, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I did what I had to do.
Right.
And if I have to go, I'm gonna go, and it's gonna be on my own terms.
Wow.
That's basically what it is. And it's like, once it clicks, because I swear to you now, once I said to the higher power, I will be okay, that Friday night, my dad
He left.
And it was like everything. I made his favorite sandwich, and I'm eating it, and I'm trying to figure out what, everything that could have went wrong when I was coming home. But it's like, he knew that I would be okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have my siblings, and they all know I'm a daddy's girl, but it's wanting to make sure that the peace inside of you is okay, not just for self, but others around, because they're not going to be there to console you.
Right, right.
They're not. So it's wanting to make sure that I will be okay, if you will be okay, and then I can go.
Go, right. I feel like I'm getting a free session here today. Grief Motivational Life Coaching for people that you don't even know. Before we go to our break, we have a minute before we go to break. How does that work? Like, how do you don't even know these people. These people are strangers. Yet you're responsible for motivating them and dealing with their grief. How do you do that?
You have to have the heart to do it. You have to have the passion. You have to have the will. For me, it's just, I got all these curveballs. I'm still standing. You can stand. So that's what we're going to do. And if you need help standing, I'm going to be here for you. I'm not going to force you to do it. You have to want to do it, but know that you'll have the support, because a lot of people don't have the support. So whether it's motivating yourself to the next level in life, or being in grief, whether it's through a family member dying, loss of a job, loss of a relationship, I am there to help get you to the next steps.
And it can't be easy, but we're glad that you're here to do it. We got so much more to talk about. We'll be back here on Sessions Cafe after this break. And we're back with Miss Koren A. Smalls.
Yes.
There's not a dry eye in the room right now.
Including mine.
I'm sure the only reason mine are dry is because I got the shades on. But it's a fascinating line of work that you have, and I wonder how your own personal battles with grief channeled your skills as a life and grief coach. I'm reading this, but I don't really have to, like, you know.
So
I know we talked about your father, but you've had a plethora of losses.
So at 15, my aunt told my mom she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I became her caretaker, went doctor's appointments, everything. There was a point where she was hospitalized for a minute, and I would sneak into Bellevue at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And be there all day until I got caught. And the security guard was like, listen, here's your badge. Just, you don't have to sneak anymore. Just do what you needed to do. In the midst of that, as her health started declining more, my grandmother had a series of strokes. So now my mom was caring for my grandmother until it became too much, and then she was placed in a nursing home. My aunt passed away the end of August.
Now, this aunt was your grandmother's daughter?
Yes.
Okay, so you're maternal.
My whole maternal line, yep. My aunt passed away the end of August. My grandmother a week, if I'm correct, a week or a week and a half after her. And then my mom was 8 months, if I'm correct, 6 or 8 months after them.
No.
So by the time I was 16, I had wrote 3 obituaries, planned 3 funerals, tried to hold it together for my cousin who had lost his mom.
Right.
My mom had custody of him for him to lose another mother figure.
Right. That's too much.
And
at 16, you're in high school.
At 16,
so you're
in high school.
Supposed to be proms and all that?
Proms, nope.
Yeah. Wow.
So we had, my cousin ended up going with my uncle, who was the next person in line if something must have happened to my mom. And my sister and I went to my dad. So right before we left, I remember going to the store and, you know, getting some teddy bears, some motivational stuff, and I packed a bag for them. And I didn't know that that was legacy planning because there was a note in there that detailed a whole bunch of stuff until I became of age to find out what this is and what's going on. So it seems like it's always been a part of me.
you, yeah. Oh, man.
After my mom died, you know, life transpired. I became a mom, which is very difficult being a mom without a mom. So I was just like, the best way to be a mom to my little girl is just to mimic everything that my mom did for me, which I did. Turned around, had another one. So I'm like, listen, 2 kids, my dad is there, my sister's there, my village is there. And then my brother ended up passing away. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, I can't tell you when. I just know that it was in November. But that was totally blocked out. I only remember what my sister told me happened. But the month of November is the hardest month because I have my father's anniversary first, my brother's anniversary, and then my mother's birthday. So, and everyone's like, how do you smile? I got memories.
Right.
I have memories that on the worst day possible, and I have to dig deep, that's what keeps me afloat. That's what keeps me afloat. My dad didn't keep me afloat. That death, that was the one that literally made everything that I placed in my backpack come tumbling out.
Right. Unraveling all over the place.
When I say unraveled, it unraveled. And I knock on this couch that my sisters were there. Because like I said, I'm a daddy's girl. You see Mr. Joe Small, you see Miss Corinne Small, you see him all in my face. And that was the one that I finally understood what grief was. Right. Because I was in a grieving process for
years.
Yeah. It was so bad, someone called Adult Protective Services on me.
Wow.
Exactly. It was bad. Mind you, I was going to work.
Yeah.
I was taking care of home. But then once you unzip it,
yeah,
just falls right out.
You mentioned this, Koren, earlier in our conversation. Grief rituals and legacy projects. It's going to get a little deep again.
Okay.
But let's talk about that. Like, what are grief rituals and legacy projects, and how do you facilitate them for your clients?
So grief rituals is basically what makes you feel comfortable when you're dealing with your grief. For me, I can say I may want to sit down and binge in front of a TV and have my junk food all over the bed and have a weekend where I shut everything out. To someone else, it may be going out into the community and giving back, doing something. So it all depends on what it is that you want to do. The legacy review and planning is mainly for the person who's leaving us.
Yes.
Who wants to leave pieces of them behind to whomever they want.
Okay.
It may be a person who has not spoken to their children in years and wants to have an opportunity to write a letter to say, you know what, I may have messed up,
Right.
but I love you.
Right.
And this is what I want you to have.
Okay.
It may be...
So something tangible, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something physical. Okay.
And it's not always money either. That's the
Right.
thing. People are just like, oh, they're going to leave me money.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
It could be a family heirloom. It could be a pair of earrings. It can be a music box or records, a family recipe book. It could be an album. Things of that nature that you feel that you want to use so someone can, when they're in that moment or new life has come in and you want to talk about the old life that went out, you have something there for them.
Wow. It's like a roller coaster because we're going to go deep again. This is very personal.
It's not linear.
So do different kinds of loss, such as illnesses, cancer, etc., murder, and fatal accidents require different types of counseling? I'm also going to share something very personal with you again. So in 1994, I lost my grandmother to cancer. Okay, she was the first close person that I lost.
Wow.
Prior to 94, and I was 22 at the time, I've been pretty lucky. You know, I didn't deal with any close family members dying. My grandmother dies in July of 1994. In June of 1996, so my grandmother died July 15th, and on June 15th of 1996, so almost exactly 2 years later, my father was murdered.
Wow.
Obviously, very different circumstance. With my grandmother, I knew that she was going to leave, and that was painful watching her suffer from cancer. But with my father, murder takes you away instantly.
Yep.
I didn't know an hour before he died that he wasn't going to be here. So I was, in a 2-year period, I lost two very close people to me in two very different ways. And they were very different experiences. With cancer, there's hospice, and there's watching the patient, you know, change physically. With murder, there's police.
There's nothing.
And in my case, my father's death was never solved. So, very different circumstances. How do you deal with clients with different ways? Because then there's accidents.
So with the accidents, with the murder, with the suicides, it's all, I don't want to say unresolved grief, but it's unexplained grief because it's a shock.
Right.
It didn't just, it was literally snatched like a rug under you.
Correct.
So dealing with someone like that, it's going to be as if you're talking to the person because you got to work that inside of you before you can even understand that this person is gone. So it's getting your journal, getting some writing prompts on what you would say, whether to the person that's departed or the person that did it, the why, the feelings, because with this one, you definitely have to get your feelings out because it's going to bubble up inside of you and you won't know what to do with it.
Right.
So it's sitting down, and it sounds crazy. Folks will say it sounds crazy, but act like you're talking to the person. And even if you have to come up with answers that make you feel okay, you come up with answers to make you feel okay.
Okay.
Because you have to put one foot forward. You're going to get stumbled. It's not linear. It's going to have peaks, it's going to have valleys, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. You're going to have moments of guilt where you're like, wait a minute, I'm actually having fun. No, I shouldn't be having fun. Are you crazy? Like, my dad's not here, my grandma's not here. No, life goes on. Those little moments where you are happy and you are feeling like yourself, look at it as that's them cheering you on, telling you to move on with life.
Right.
I will always be with you. Just move on. And it's hard to move on, but I always tell folks, especially little ones, when you feel that sun hitting your face, that's your sun kiss you're getting. You know, when the wind brushes past you, that's a hug that you're getting. So you have to look at it. They're always going to be around. They are.
Before we go, I want to discuss your podcast and the smile that came across your beautiful face. Let's talk about your podcast.
So I have, and I'm in the process of revamping it around. And it's still going to be SOAR, but it's going to be...
Is SOAR an acronym now?
Yes. So it means supporting others with advocacy and respect.
Okay.
And the crazy part about it is SOAR has been with me for over 20 years. And the acronym has meant different things because I've worked in the education system. So it was just, you know, like seeking help, all of that other stuff. But my podcast is going to be ways to navigate grief. It's going to talk about legacy planning. Hopefully it'll get big enough to where I have guests come on and talk about it. But for right now, it's going to be me having a dialogue with folks like you that don't want to answer or ask those questions because they don't want to seem morbid or anything of the sort. But I want to be there to bust that ceiling open and say, no, we have to talk about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. So that's what my podcast is going to be
And
about.
it's very necessary, so we thank you so much, Koren.
Thank you.
It's been more than a pleasure to have you here on Sessions Cafe. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate
and
it.
we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on Sessions Cafe.